Good afternoon. Today is the 26th of March. As you can see, we're very much still in the same place where we were last time you saw my face in one of these videos, as I'm sure most of you are. And we're going to talk about one of the hot topics actually this week, that's come as a result of the state of the country and the world, and that's: do you really need to worry about getting your car an MOT, or are you just going to wait till the 30th of September when the government exemption runs out? So, as a lot of you will know, having seen the news or read a lot of motoring websites, or possibly having seen the videos that Planet Auto and mattsbeamer have made on their YouTube channels, and then maybe others too, the government decided yesterday to grant an exemption to car MOTs for 6 months from the 30th of March. Now, this is something of a controversial topic, and I am actually not sure myself whether or not I come down on one side or the other. I really don't know. I know that a lot of people will definitely think this is a wonderful thing. I know some people think that this is absolutely terrible and very dangerous. I don't really know. I'm not sure what the answer to this question is, because I think there are very legitimate arguments on either side. But let's see how we go, and let's first of all think about why the government might have done this. One of the reasons, I think, is to try to distance people as much from each other as possible. And now we're all into social distancing. Every time I go out for a walk every day, or if I go to the supermarket, or even if I go and deliver stuff to my mother who's in self-isolation, I have to keep right away from them, 2 meters. One of the things that can be possible to do is do this same protection for the employees of MOT stations and garages by just simply decreasing massively the number of cars that come through. Therefore, in terms of the risk of somebody getting infected, that would be, I suppose, logically less, because you're sending fewer cars through. Also, if the people who really need their cars, we're talking people like NHS staff, people who work in supermarkets, people who work in a lot of professions. Actually, there's a number of professions that are working incredibly hard to keep the country running, whilst a lot of us are self-isolating, or we're just staying at home and following government advice. So for all of them, there's not a lot of time to get an MOT, book an MOT, and possibly that is one of the things. So yes, that is, I can see a very valid reason for extending the MOT period for another 6 months for all vehicles from the 30th of this month, and that will help a number of people to not have to worry about that for a while. The other side of it is the government have very much emphasised, and I will emphasise this too, that the cars must be kept in a roadworthy condition. You must keep an eye on your tyres, your brakes, the level of the oil of the engine, whether there's a leak, whether you've actually got an exhaust hanging off, or any number of things that we covered in an MOT test. Now, this will be the case really in general anyway, because if you think about it, if you were to go along the road and get stopped having a bald tyre, and you say, well, yesterday I had an MOT and the tyre was fine, you could just change that tyre in the last 24 hours, and the condition of your car at the MOT is now different from what it is today. So that's not really much of an excuse, really, and that doesn't really change. So this actually in some ways isn't much of a change to say that you'll be fine if your car is not in a roadworthy condition. That could be the case for anything. And someone said to me a very good point, that the MOT test is just a snapshot of what the car was like at that particular day. It's not an excuse for not servicing the car or anything like that. Now, the other side of this is that garages and MOT testing centres, which are allowed to remain open for business, and of course they must remain open for business, they will obviously have a huge drop in revenue, a huge drop in people coming through. And, you know, those who have put very sensible measures in, I know National Tyres and Autocentres have done that. I'm sure that many others have too. They're not going to get a huge number of people coming through the door, because a lot of people have been forced to stay away. Maybe we're in self-isolation. And so if you're in self-isolation, your car's not much use anyway, really. But this means that the trade will dry up very much for them. Now, the government obviously have put in place a number of measures to compensate people who are not able to work in the normal jobs, and for self-employed people, I believe that's coming too. But I don't really know whether I think this is a good idea or not. I haven't really decided. I've spoken to Mr. James Coleman, the Royal mechanic, who until very recently was a qualified MOT tester. He wasn't actually till last month. He decided to not renew his status because it costs several £1,000s, and he doesn't really do a lot of MOTs on cars anymore. Obviously, he works on lorries a lot of time and trucks, and he's still qualified to do that. But in terms of the cars, he just thought it was too expensive to keep going, and I understand that entirely. But I asked him about this as somebody who is still an MOT tester, albeit of of many trucks, and he I don't think particularly thinks this is a great idea, and I can understand that entirely. A lot of people in this country don't really do much about their cars until MOT time. They think, well, I'll just wait till for the MOT and I'll get the lights fixed or the tyres fixed and things like that. If you know that an MOT is not coming up for 6 months, then you might not, whether you actually need your car or not, you might not do anything about it. And so this could be a bit of a concern. Now, as I said, I don't know which side of this I fall on. I really haven't made my mind up. And so feel free to say one thing or the other in the comments. It's a very controversial topic. It's a very difficult situation we're in at the moment. And have the government made the right call on this? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I know that I have 3 cars which I could take for an MOT because they will need one in June, one in July, one in August, all 3 of them actually. And so without this exemption, I would need to get them all tested. Whether or not I actually do, I don't know. In a way, I'd really quite like to, but I don't want to risk someone else's kind of health by putting potentially a car through a test, or risk to someone else who drives the car of getting something as well. I don't really want to do that. I think the best thing really is for this whole thing to finish, and then we're not going to be in this situation anyway. But yes, I hope that's an interesting thing to get you started. This is really just a starting point rather than a conclusive thing. I'm not an expert on these things. All I know is I have 3 cars that need MOTs and in June, July and August. And obviously I could take them, through an MOT a month beforehand if I want to. And there are still places open that will give me an MOT. But is that essential travel? Is that essential travel, taking a car for an MOT when I've been granted an exception? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. So thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below. As I said, I'm really a bit undecided about this. I'm not coming down harshly one way or the other on this. And I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. I've got another video coming up tomorrow. We've got more podcasts that we're doing. Doing a lot with Mr. Ben Quert from Planet Auto. The slightly shambolic sound recordings, the one we made last night was so shambolic we can't actually release it, so that's a sign of quality for you there. Yes, don't forget to visit my Facebook page, facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Thank you ever so much indeed for watching.